To love a boy without him knowing when one is herself merely a girl is not a shameful endeavour, but society expects the girl to grow out of such sentiments, to swallow them down as she would her morning eggs, and to move on with her life. Sadly, at 17 years, Marietta Stone had grown up, but had not grown out of her admiration of a certain boy. "I'm forbidden to see you," she said aloud as she wrote the words in her letter. She continued without speaking again for fear that her mother's maid would be passing in the hall and overhear and tell her mother that she had become addled in the brain. "Yet I see you clearly in my mind's eye, your golden hair like wheat ready for harvest, your blue eyes as clear as the snow melting into the river. I hear your laugh and know we are sharing a joke that only we two comprehend." She smirked at that line. In truth, Frederick Nathaniel Finch had only ever laughed at his sister's expense, or hers, as the case often was. Frederick was her best friend's brother, and Etta had been in love with him for as long as she could remember. Well, perhaps not that long, since she did remember him as a rather rotten young boy with a propensity to tease, but it had been several years since he'd stretched out into a man who could be called tall, and his laughing eyes filled her with delight every time she saw them. She hadn't seen him in over a year, not since before the great catastrophe of the season. Not her season, but her sister's. Her older sister Anne had been adorned in beautiful gowns, her hair swept up into elaborate braids and pinned with the lovely hairpins passed down from the girl's grandmother. Anne had trained for her debut into society her entire life. She spoke softly but with confidence. She walked as if floating. She could converse with a member of the nobility without humiliating herself. Surely everything would be perfect. But the season had decidedly not been perfect. It had been a great catastrophe. Etta's mother and sister had returned from London with reputations bruised and confidence in tatters. Mamma had thundered and stormed and forbidden them to associate with the Finch family. Etta had not seen Frederick or even her friend Lucy Finch since. They were not allowed to so much as throw a stone in the direction of the Finch property. This was why she had to write Frederick letters, although she would not have seen him even without her mother's admonition to avoid his family. At the time of the great catastrophe, Frederick Finch had been in France. She needed to forget him. She wrote the letters to accomplish just that. She reasoned that if she put all her feelings to paper, they would no longer be trapped between the beatings of her heart, and she could focus on her upcoming season. Etta sighed and returned to her letter. "Do you remember when you had decided to build a fort with your cousin Gerard, and you declared no silly girl should ever enter? But then you couldn't see how to fit the boards in the tree branches so that you could nail them down properly and required my help to work it all out. And then Gerard insisted you had to let me in the fort since it was I who had built it. He said that I was not at all a silly girl, and you looked at me like he just might be right. I think of that look sometimes, and wish I could see it in you now. Heavens, I wish I could see you no matter what way you looked at me."